Hello, I'm Michael Pascoe. It's Monday, December 23, the official start of Christmas week and pretty much the end of the year. Well, this is the last business week video of the year anyway. It's traditional then to make either a best of year spray or a tongue-in-cheek awards presentation or a collection of bold forecasts about the year ahead. So we won't do any of those. Instead, how about a couple of things I've been trying to mention and haven't, a little perspective about the good and the bad, starting with something the new government might have got right and received no praise for, blocking the ADM takeover of GrainCorp. Some Catholic school graduates might recall having to write ADMG at the top of their exercise books, short for Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, which means for the greater glory of God. Well, that's got absolutely nothing to do with what we would have had if Archer Daniels Midland took over GrainCorp. Joe Hockey blocking ADM's GrainCorp bid was widely seen as the Treasurer caving into the National Party, a symbol of Australia not being open for business. I suppose that's typical of the politicisation of everything over the past few years, but it's not that simple. People much closer to the issues than the general and political media, people not carrying torches for ADM or GrainCorp's management, have a more relaxed view about Hockey's decision. There are two key issues that haven't had much of an airing: the sort of company that ADM is, and the failure of our competition watchdog in allowing GrainCorp to grab as much of the industry as it has. ADM has not had the cleanest of records as a corporate citizen, way back to Watergate days. Culture can be a curious thing. The latest example is the company agreeing on Friday to pay $54 million in criminal and regulatory penalties for bribing Ukrainian officials. They might have been a good fit with the old AWB. So there are reasons to be a little wary of the rather ruthless ADM and its promises, however much GrainCorp's now ex-CEO liked the deal. Combined with that, GrainCorp may have been allowed to grow too far, a failure of the ACCC. Farmers have had reason to be wary of ADM buying such a grip on their grain. And it's worth remembering that Hockey didn't overturn a Foreign Investment Review Board decision. FIRB itself was split on the deal. But enough of being nice to the government, particularly the way so much dubious stuff was dumped late on the Friday afternoon before Christmas. The first look at poor Greg Hunt's direct action mess, carry on up the carbon, was as sad as it was always going to be. The minister really does know better, but he's keeping his job. And then there was Assistant Treasurer Arthur Sinodinos giving the banks and financial planning industry pretty much all the changes they wanted to the future of financial advice reforms, substantially gutting the changes inspired by the Storm Financial scandal. Oh dear. That was the day after Michael West exposed on these pages how the bank-controlled financial planners, the majority of the industry, were continuing to put the best interests of their masters ahead of their clients, dudding clients of 100 points or so on what they should be getting for their cash holdings by channeling the deposits back to their mediocre accounts with the controllers instead of the best available. The sort of thing FOFA should have outlawed. Well, I waited for a red-hot poker to spear out of ASIC and right up the big banks' backsides. A fiery broadside from an outraged regulator shocked to find the biggest names in Australian finance abusing their power and position. Demands that the banks and the planners make good on what they had ripped off trusting clients. But of course, it didn't happen. So I asked, and ASIC has confirmed that this was not something it was currently looking at. Oh dear, what a sad and pathetic excuse for a regulator. Acts tough with the odd little guy, but runs away from the big boys, at most whipping them with a feather, and generally preferring to leave any hard stuff to litigation funders and their ambulance-chasing remora, which of course they only undertake when there's a buck in it for them, not because of any high principle. But you'll be relieved to know ASIC speedily swung into action to fall in behind Senator Sinodinos in taking less action. That seemed to come easily. But enough such churlishness about motives at the big end of town. There's a whole world to consider at year's end. It's obvious that major dangers and challenges remain, but the financial world is generally in better shape than it was 12 months ago. The Reserve Bank summary last week was about right. The two things that worry me in the medium term don't seem to worry many others: Japan and India. The former because of demographics and Abenomics stimulus only being sustainable with massive cultural change that is not happening. The latter because of demographics that the country requires massive cultural, political, legal and economic changes, and they're not happening. The opportunity cost for India of muddling on is horrific. But hey, it's Christmas. Be merry. Talk to you again on January 20.